Chicago Cubs strongly encourage the use of public transportation. The CTA offers a variety of options, including the Red Line, which stops right at Wrigley Field at the Addison Station. If you must drive, try the remote parking operation at DeVry University. Located near the Addison and Rockwell intersection, the remote lot offers parking and an express bus for just $6. For another option, try riding your bike. The Cubs provide a free bike check at the car wash at Clark and Waveland. For more details, call the CTA hotline at 773-836-7000 or visit Cubs.com.
This has been an amazing month, and it just keeps getting better. Thanks to all my new friends at Pontiac, we're collecting more cards for the troops than we ever could have on our own. And now they want to say thanks to you.
The Pontiac Memorial Day sales event has been extended through June 4th. Get 0% financing plus $1,000 bonus cash on Pontiac G5, G6, and Torrent models. It's our way of saying thanks. See your local Pontiac dealer by June 4th.
We want to welcome those viewers watching us in Dublin, Ireland on the North American Sports Network today. Let's set the Cubs Southwest starting lineup. Alfonso Soriano, .343 career hitter against the Atlanta Braves. Ryan Theriot at short. Derek Lee at first base. Aramis Ramirez back in the fourth spot. Matt Merton in for Cliff Floyd. Mild inflammation of cartilage in the oblique for Cliff. Hopefully nothing serious. Barrett back in there. Jones in center. DeRosa, the former Brave, and Zambrano, the pitcher.
We'll take a look at the Braves defensively. Former White Sox Willie Harris playing left field. Andrew Jones in center field. Jeff Francoeur over in right field. Watch out for his throwing arm. Pete Orr filling in for Chipper Jones at third base. Edgar Renteria at short. Kelly Johnson at second base. Scott Thorman over at first. Brian McCann will be doing the catching today for right-hander Kyle Davies. Good look at his numbers on the season. Davies is a four-pitch guy. Fast curve, slider, changeup. Doesn't throw the changeup to right-handed batters very often. Mostly fastball, curveball, occasional slider.
I don't believe Kyle was in the Kinks. Along with Ray and Dave. Davies swing and a miss.
Yeah, he went to sports. He missed music class and got off the beaten path a little bit, so to speak.
Nice play by Zambrano. Again, a big swing by Francoeur. That ball wasn't hit that hard, but never easy to barehand it like Zambrano did. Did you always cringe when your starting pitcher went with that pitching hand after a ground ball?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, most of the time you escape unscathed, but
this is Francoeur coming over off the ledge and bounding into the seats.
Yeah, you worry about the guy misplaying it maybe a little bit. I mean, the obvious concern is a ball that's hit hard and leaves a bone bruise or breaks a bone in a guy's hand. But even on those slowly hit balls, if it hits your finger at a bad angle, bends a fingernail back, anything that affects the way a guy throws the baseball, and it can happen very easily. So, yes, indeed, I did cringe every time I saw a pitcher try to barehand the ball.
2-2 on Soriano, who has just one home run here at Wrigley this year. Ground ball to short. Edgar Renteria has 2 gold gloves. And he gets the out. Speaking of Kyle Davies, he's only 23. So about the time he was born, I think Come Dancing was coming out. That was late in the Kinks' career. I'm sure he remembers the 80s, but not very well.
Not very well, no. Probably back in the 80s he was on a low budget, but that's not the case anymore.
Here's the pitch to Ryan Theriot, up and in. Coy Hill, previous big league time with the Dodgers and the Arizona Diamondbacks. He is a switch hitter. He's backing up Michael Barrett. Cubs today placed Henry Blanco on the 15-day disabled list with a cervical herniated disc. His neck had been bothering him for a while, and he started to feel some tingling in his arm, and that's never a good sign. So he'll get some treatment, and we'll go from there. Hopefully he won't be out very long. Off on a 3-1, and now the count is full.
One thing we know for sure about Coy Hill is he's a tough guy. Back in 04, when he was traded from the Los Angeles Dodgers to the Arizona Diamondbacks, had a collision play at the plate with Ty Wigginton and broke his ankle and stayed in the ball game for another couple of innings. And only after the ball game did they finally take him in for some x-rays, and it was then discovered that he had played the rest of the ball game on a broken ankle. Behind the plate, I mean, there may be positions on the field when you could possibly get away with that, but how in the world do you get down into a catcher's crouch with a broken ankle?
That's pretty amazing. Terrio dunks it into right center. He's going to make the turn. He's going to stop at first. You mentioned the cannon out there for Jeff Francoeur, and Ryan Terrio may have tried it on a different right fielder, but no way today.
And watching the way Jeff Francoeur went after that ball, guys that have good arms, they try to bait the hitter into going for an extra base. Francoeur just kind of loped over after that ball, wasn't in any big hurry, but he knew if he got to the ball, as Ryan Terrio was getting to the base at first base, he'd have plenty of time to throw to second for the out if Terrio tried to stretch it. But Francoeur just trying to bait Terrio into going for that extra base.
Derek Lee hits a ground ball past Pete Orr into left. First and second. So the league's leading batter upping his batting average for that base hit. Cubs were shut out Wednesday night by Florida. Had just 5 hits. They have 2 here in the first inning today.
Derek Lee jumping on a first pitch fastball. Kyle Davies in his last outing against the Phillies, we told you, got banged around pretty good. And looking at the pitching charts from that game, he threw a lot of first pitch fastballs against those Phillies hitters.
Ramirez cleaning up once again. Well, he admitted, he said fifth was fine. Said he felt actually more comfortable there and thought it was a good idea to have Cliff Floyd ahead of him and behind Lee. And even though Cliff not in the lineup, he was in the original lineup hitting 5th behind Aramis. Instead, it's going to be Matt Merton. And regarding the lineup, Lou said something today I think is absolutely right. He said when you're hitting, when your offense is going, you literally could draw it out of a hat. Just find 8 position players and your pitcher and go out there and score 7 runs. But managers will tinker when the offense is inconsistent. A 2-0 on the way. It's a strike on a fastball. And he did joke after the game Wednesday about drawing a lineup out of a hat, and you kind of joked about that during the broadcast.
Well, it's not unusual. Managers will try just about anything when your ball club is struggling, not playing up to expectations, and drawing names out of the hat has been done in the past.
2-2. Well, what you can do, you just say we're going to draw names out of a hat for the lineup, and if the name you pick out is not one you like to bat first, you go, well, he's going to hit 8th. We're going to go up from there. So you just make your own rules as you go.
Just kind of massage it along, you know.
Well, I didn't say that guy's going to hit first.
I think the whole purpose of doing things like that, and you don't see it at the major league level very, very, very infrequently, but in the minor league level, it happens more often than you might think. And I think the basis for it is just to try to get guys to relax.
The kick in, the 2-2 pitch. He's run it full.
You know, when an individual or a team struggles, everybody has a tendency to get that tunnel vision. I need to get a hit. I need to get my average up. And you need to start looking at the big picture. What can I do in this particular at bat to help my team win a ball game? And maybe that's make a productive out. Hit the ball to the outfield, let the runners tag up and advance, maybe a ground ball to the right side. Whatever the case may be, you can do things to help your team win a ball game without hitting a 3-run homer.
We'll see if the runners are going to go. Derek Lee looks like he wants to go, and Davies is going to check on Terrio at second base. I'm going to say they're running.
I agree with you. I think they should run. Aramis Ramirez is a pretty good contact hitter. Even with 2 strikes, he usually manages to find a way to put the ball in play. And Get those runners in motion. It may open up some holes in the infield defensively.
They are not on the move. There's a ground ball right to the second baseman, Kelly Johnson. It actually may not have mattered if they were running because that ground ball took him right to the bag. After one, Atlanta 1, Cubs nothing.
Wake up the rivalry and wake up to McDonald's. Get any 2 biscuit sandwiches for just $3.
Hey, man.
Hey.
Give you a hand?
Sure, yeah. Just take this. No.
Hey, guys. Check this out. So you pop the top, little tap action, boom, get the glass. A little something I like to call liquid gold.
Did you see what Mikey brought?
Yeah, I brought a sandwich.
Okay.
It's got Gouda. Smoked Gouda, actually.
Wake up!
Wake up the rivalry and wake up to McDonald's new iced coffee in 3 delicious flavors.
Due to the length of this game, we now move ahead in the action.
Cubs baseball is brought to you in part by Aflac. Ask about it at work. And by Nissan, who invites you to shift the way you move through the world.
Tickets are available now for Cubs home games, in particular the June 11th makeup game against Houston at 7:05. To purchase tickets, visit Cubs.com. Call 1-800-THE-CUBS or visit the Wrigley Field box office. Always good to see Chip Carey, former television voice of the Chicago Cubs. We're telling you to wave, Chip. There you go.
Now, he's not familiar with this television stuff, you know. You got to help him out a little bit.
Chip working with Joe Simpson today on the Braves telecast. Matt Merton will start it. Late entry into the lineup. Cliff Floyd again with the ribcage injury. A first pitch strike from Kyle Davies. Again, a no decision for him against the Cubs in Atlanta on April 18th. This is his Wrigley Field debut. Backed up Renteria a bit.
Good swing that time by Merton. Not good results, but didn't get fooled by that breaking ball at all. Right on it. Hit a hard one hopper to the shortstop.
Now Michael Barrett, who's from Atlanta. Again, this is the first of 7 of the next 10 for the Cubs against the Atlanta Braves. The only other 3 will be in Milwaukee. And one of the big questions for later this weekend, Bob, is will John Smoltz in fact make his start on Sunday? He had to leave his last start in Milwaukee. Tweaked his shoulder a little bit, had a pre-existing right pinky injury that he aggravated on a broken bat swing. And I guess as of today, he's still penciled in. But I guess he's going to know more tomorrow. The fact that he's even considering starting is kind of amazing. Most guys with a shoulder and a finger injury on the right arm, he'd give him 10 days or so and just say, maybe put you on the DL, but not John Smoltz.
That'd be my vote. I mean, even if you push him back a day to Monday, the Cubs will still get him next weekend in Atlanta. So I think they ought to just shut him down for a week or so.
That's a good idea. 200 career wins for John Smoltz.
Quite possibly, certainly one of, if not the best athlete in the National League, maybe in all of baseball. There aren't very many things that guy can't do physically. Tremendous golfer, obviously a great pitcher, handles the bat extremely well. He can run. He was used as a pinch runner earlier in his career.
And it's interesting that he got his 200th win. He's the only pitcher ever with 200 wins and 150 saves, and has been considered a borderline Hall of Fame candidate. Remember, had Tommy John surgery, some elbow problems in his career. But I think you pile up the numbers, and he's been arguably one of the, if not the, most successful postseason pitcher in the history of the game. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, Glavine and Maddox are definitely Hall of Famers, but I think John Smoltz will join them.
Moving up the all-time strikeout list. Was 19th going into this season. Figures to pass a few guys this year before all is said and done. Well, you look at his division series record, a perfect 7-0 with an ERA of 2.5. 6-2 in the league championship series with an ERA of 2.80, and in the World Series 2-2 with a 2.47 ERA.
That's good enough for me. Think about how few pitchers even get a chance to participate in the postseason at all. He's had a lot of chances and has been very successful. Good at bat here for Michael, hanging in against Kyle Davies. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Nobody on base, 1 out. We're in the last of the second. Only game going on currently in the major leagues. Everything else tonight. Johnson shuffled to his right, throws out Barrett. And now Jock Jones, 1 for 2 with a double versus Davies in his career. Go ahead, Bob.
I was just about to say we may as well get into it. The overshifting of the Braves outfield. We talked about it down in Atlanta earlier this year. This is something they have done throughout Bobby Cox's tenure here in Atlanta. They rely on their pitchers to hit their spots. And if the pitcher does hit his spots, they overshift that outfield defense, fully anticipating the hitter's going to hit the ball into the teeth of the defense.
That's a great point. That's a great point. If you didn't know there was a left-handed hitter in the box, you'd think it was a right-handed power hitter.
Willie Harris playing extremely deep and playing Jock Jones like you would play a right-handed pull hitter. Same thing for Andrew Jones in center. And we talked about it in Atlanta. That's fine as long as your pitcher consistently hits his spots. But if you get a guy that's a little erratic with his command, that ball strays over the heart of the plate a little bit too much. There's a huge gap in right center and a huge gap down the right field line. I mean, Jeff Francoeur looks awfully lonely out there in right field.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
Of course, with Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz and some of the other starting pitchers they've had in Atlanta over the years, you can afford to overplay your defense, knowing that your pitcher is probably going to hit his spots the overwhelming majority of the time.
And Pete Orr played way off the line at third. Field going one way, the outfield the other. It's a full count on Jones. The pitch, swing and a miss. And the Cubs go down in order in the second. On to the third, 1-0 Atlanta.
Not all the energy for our fuel comes from oil on the ground. A lot of it comes from our people who year in and year out put so much of their energy into everything they do. So you can be sure that when you put Valero gas into your tank, you're going to get a lot out of it. Valero, the energy to take you anywhere.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Chicago Cubs and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Chicago Cubs.
At Menards, you'll find a huge selection of patio furniture to match your style. The Modesto set includes 4 spring sling chairs with all-weather fabric and powder-coated steel frames with a 48-inch faux stone table, $329. Add maintenance-free railing from Quick Rail to your deck or porch. It has sticker walls for strength and durability and is easy to install. A 6-foot railing kit is $79. Plus, there's 0 payments and no interest till spring when you use your big card.
Save big money at Menards.
I remember when we had to drive to the video store for a movie, and if they were out, bummer.
That was then. Now there's the Mediacom 2-Star Pack with Stars and Showtime on demand. Hit movies are always in stock, and they start instantly with our remote.
And we can pause, fast forward, and rewind anytime. Can't do that with a dish.
Order the digital 2-Star Pack for just $14.95 a month for 12 months and get your choice of Mediacom phone or Mediacom online free for the rest of the year.
Call 1-800-CABLE-TV.
Tonight, catch the latest edition Of Chicago Tribune Live on Comcast Sportsnet. Dan Jiggett's Tribune writers, sports stars, and celebrities discuss the day's hottest sports topics and set the table for the night ahead. Don't miss Chicago Tribune Live tonight at 5:30 right here on Comcast Sportsnet. Great day to be out at the ballpark. It is June 1st. Temperatures in the mid-70s. A very bright afternoon. Wind blowing straight across from right to left. Willie Harris, former member of the White Sox. Singled as a pinch hitter, scored the lone run in the 8th inning of the White Sox 1-0 World Series clinching win at Houston in Game 4 of the 05 Fall Classic. Boy, Bobby Cox just plugs him in. Ryan Langerhans was traded to Oakland. So Harris gets put into that platoon with Matt Diaz, and they have both put up huge numbers. Matt Diaz hit .424 in May, finished second in the majors. Willie Harris leads all big leaguers with 60 or more at bats against righties. Came in at .422. That's a good platoon.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I was always a big fan of Willie Harris's when he was with the White Sox. Base hit into center field. As you well know, Len, the White Sox and Diamondbacks shared a facility down in Tucson, Arizona in spring training. And, geez, I think we played each other 8 or 9 times every spring. And I got to see a lot of Willie Harris. He does a lot of things well on the field. I haven't had a chance to follow his career as closely at the major league level, but certainly in spring training, he was a guy that has the tools necessary to be a solid big league player.
So a leadoff hit in each of the first 3 against Zambrano, so he's been forced to work from the stretch quite a bit. Coming off a high-stress outing and one of his better ones of the year, 7 2/3 innings. He threw 125 pitches as he beat the Dodgers. Season high 8 strikeouts. Working on an extra day of rest, as is the entire rotation this weekend. Now on 5 days rest, Carlos 2-2 with a 6.08 earned run average in his career, 4.79. Whereas on 4 days rest at 2.68. We've discussed the idea of sinker ballers. Sometimes if they're a little bit fatigued, they have more success because their ball moves more. And we often hear about sinker ballers sometimes being too strong on the mound.
They tend to overthrow the ball, and when they try to do that, they lose the movement on that sinker. The ball tends to flatten out rather than sink, and that's when it tends to get whacked around a little bit. You know Harris would like to attempt to steal a base, but Zambrano gets rid of the ball so quickly. He's been unable to time him at all over their first base.
Boy, very few guys steal bases with Zambrano on the mound. In fact, very few even attempt to steal bases. He is as good as any pitcher in the game at stopping the stolen bases.
When you just do the math, coaches in the Braves dugout and the Cubs dugout for that matter have their stopwatches out, figuring out the release time for Zambrano by the time he starts his movement and the time the ball gets into the hitting area, and then another time from the time the ball touches the catcher's glove until he gets it to second base. And if you do the math, there's just not enough time to steal a base. Carlos gets rid of it so quickly, he gives his catcher the luxury of making sure he has a good grip and getting off a good throw to second base, and should still be in time to get the runner.
Renteria hooks it on the ground, foul past third. Well, Zambrano has thrown 34 pitches. Only 9 of them have been tossed with nobody on base.
There's 6 out of 8 at the major league level, with 7 out of 10 in 17 games at AAA.
Is our low jack caught stealing report. Jack, the only stolen vehicle recovery system operated by the police. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The next one to Renteria over Zambrano, and it skids past Mark DeRosa. That ball really took off as it got near second base. And the Braves have 2 on with no outs.
It's a good description for what that ball did. It kind of skidded up the middle. If it takes one more big hop, it may come up to the point where DeRosa could make a diving play. It looked like it hit right at the edge of the infield grass and stayed down and barely skipped over the base at second. One more big hop right there. DeRosa probably has a chance to make a diving play. Not sure if he would have been able to get an out anywhere on the infield, but when the ball hit the grass and stayed down the way it did, no play for anybody.
McCann already with an RBI hit. More trouble for Carlos. Harris at second, Renteria at first. Back behind third, foul territory, and just over the target.
Well, and I have to tell you, I watched a little bit of a ball game from Oakland the other day. They've got enough foul territory down the first and third base lines to put another field in at that stadium. Somebody, I don't recall who the hitter was, hit a little pop-up that ended up a couple rows in the bleachers, and the first baseman was on a dead sprint for about 15 seconds and didn't get there in time.
Well, it is something to consider when you look at the Oakland Athletics earned run average. The vast foul territory, I'm sure, helps out that pitching staff. The hitters don't like it.
You know, at Candlestick, at least we had the swirling winds to kind of negate all that foul territory. Just because you popped it up into foul territory didn't mean the ball was going to be caught. But, man, a lot of balls go to die in foul territory in Oakland.
DeRosa, Terrio, Lee, a double play. 2 big outs for Zambrano on 1 swing off the bat of McCann. Runner left at third, Harris. 2 away in the inning.
Well, that's that lane, just a ball inside the outside corner, and if you can get that left-handed hitter to try to pull that ball to the right side, that's normally where it's going to end up. We used to call that DP lane. If you can throw that ball just on the inside of the outside corner, and the hitter's up there looking to pull the ball, it's more often than not going to end up being a ground ball right at your middle infielders.
Remember the last at bat for Andrew Jones. Zambrano quickly got ahead of him 0-2, and then Jones doubled to left center. As a sign he wants from Barrett. Quick look at Harris and the pitch. That was a slider that missed. And he's given up 6 hits here early, Bob. Is Carlos throwing too many hittable strikes?
Well, you know, I was thinking about that in that first inning of the ball game. You know, Carlos used to have the reputation of being this wild man. He'd drill guys, he'd knock guys down all the time. We haven't seen a lot of that from Carlos. Not that I'm advocating that he starts drilling guys again, but there's something to be said for that fastball inside off the corner just to keep a hitter honest. I mean, I think more than anything else, Carlos today is relying on the movement on his pitches. He's throwing them in the strike zone, which is what you want him to do.
3-2, a slider on a 3-1. Well, a lot of hitters will tell you, regardless of their numbers against certain pitchers, they'll say that's a very uncomfortable at bat for me. And it'd be curious to talk to some guys who have faced Zambrano this year and find out if it's more comfortable to face him. Now, he has walked a lot of guys this year, but not today. Today they've gotten on because of hits. There are some guys who throw 97, but some hitters will say, you know what, his fastball's straight. I get a good look at the pitch. It's not an uncomfortable at bat. But Zambrano's one of those guys who most hitters will tell you, I don't feel real good up there.
You hope to get one good pitch to hit each at bat.
Way up in the air. Sun shouldn't be a problem right at the moment. Terrio peeling off as Soriano had a better angle, made the catch. And the Braves, who started the inning with 2 hits, come up empty again, 1-0.
All new mowers look good, but Saturday morning is no time to find out your new mower won't start. You have things to do. A lawnmower is only as good as the engine that powers it.
Hey, mister.
If you don't have a Briggs & Stratton, you don't know what you have. Briggs & Stratton, the power within.
Watch all the action like you never have before from the comfort of the Batter's Eye Lounge in center field, offering a spectacular view and catered service for groups of 75 to 100. For more information, including non-game day opportunities, call 773-404-CUBS or visit Cubs.com.
Hey, Cubs fans, tune into Comcast Sportsnet all year to watch your team and the LoJack caught stealing play. Then visit Cubs.com/LoJack to enter to win a 2008 spring training trip. LoJack, the only stolen vehicle recovery system operated by the police.
Every morning, start your day the right way with McDonald's Sports Rise. Wake up to the latest Chicago sports news and highlights. McDonald's Sports Rise, every morning on Comcast Sportsnet. Fans' best friend.
What really gets a manager kicked out more than anything else is frustration. Once in a while, when I've asked umpires before the ball game, look, you're going to have to kick me out today. Somebody's going to have to get me. Now, whoever wants it, I'll be over there calling. You know?
That was predicated on your team not playing.
Not playing well, yeah, I have. I've done that before.
That's Lou Piniella, who on the list, and it's not a Major League Baseball list, but they do keep the numbers on all-time ejections as a player and as a manager. Lou Piniella has been tossed 71 times, 8th most all-time, and the guy in the other dugout, one away from tying the all-time record of 131. John McGraw at the top of that list, and Bobby Cox right behind him. He got tossed twice back-to-back days last weekend against the Philadelphia Phillies. Lou had a lot of good stuff on the umpires as DeRosa parks one into right in front of Frank Coeur for the 3rd Cubs hit. I mean, again, he said he's planned it out before. He's told him, hey, somebody's going to have to kick me out. And he said, I don't get kicked out that much. I just present my argument a little better than some. A little more demonstrative, and that's why they're memorable. Bobby actually has already set the record for managers because John McGraw was ejected 14 times as a player as Zambrano bunts through strike 1. And, you know, a lot has been written about the impending milestone. And one of the interesting things is that Bobby's usually fairly low-key when he gets the boot compared to most managers. He very rarely will explode on the field. But the one theme throughout has been he always protects his players. Davies will throw from the seat of his pants and get the out at first base. It's a sacrifice for Zambrano, sending DeRosa to second.
Good job by Carlos, and a nice play by Kyle Davies out there on the mound. Loses his footing. We talked about that the other day. There seems to be a little bit of a wet spot between home plate and the mound. We've seen a lot of pitchers for the Cubs and the visiting teams slip and slide and fall down when attempting to field bunts right out in front of the mound.
Maybe it was Murphy the fireman from our opening tease today as he got the call from across the street. Soriano bats, runner at second, 1 out.
You know, I've talked about this at length when we speak about Bobby Cox and his ejections, how the overwhelming majority of them come in the first couple innings of a ball game trying to establish that strike zone. And as we all know, you're not allowed to argue balls or strikes. So he knows what he's doing.
He speaks very highly of the umpires. Says, you know, it happens and then it's over. I was going to ask you to give us the scouting report on Bobby's ejection baiting prowess. I mean, he'll get into it. He'll let it fly, but he doesn't throw stuff.
He kind of eases into it. You know, the first one will be just him yelling at the home plate umpire, "Where was that?" You know, just trying to, okay, the umpire said it was outside. It looked pretty good to me, but if you say it's outside, all right. And then if somebody for the other team throws a similar pitch, that's the same pitch. Well, now you're starting to get into the muddy waters a little bit, and then if it continues, that's usually when the umpire comes over and tells him, "That's enough, Bobby. Now you're not allowed to argue balls and strikes." And it's usually around that point that Bobby tells them what they can do with their rule book.
I'm not sure where you rank on the list, but how many as a manager?
I don't even recall.
Like 3 or 4?
No, I had probably 9 in my 3.5 years.
As a player?
As a player, 1. And I was begging for it.
What was the situation?
Lee Wire, one of the nicest human beings to ever walk the face of the earth, a great umpire. And at that stage of my career, I was pretty much Mike Kruko's valet catcher. That was my one day a week I knew I was going to be in the lineup. And we had a game at Candlestick Park, and Kruk got knocked out in the second inning of the ball game. And I figured, what the heck, if my pitcher's gone, I might as well leave too. So in my next at bat, Lee Wire called a strike on me on the inside part of the plate, and I argued with him a little bit. The next pitch came in, similar location. Once again, a called strike. I thought it was too far inside, so I drew a line in the dirt, which is an absolute no-no with the home plate umpire. So that pitch was right there, and Lee Wire says, "Oh, Bobby, don't do that. It wasn't there." So I backed up a step and drew another line. Well, then it must have been right there. He said, "Please don't do this. Please don't do it." And at that point, I got out of the batter's box, took about a half a step towards him, and continued the argument. And he almost apologized as he threw me out of the game, and I apologized to him the next day. But my rationale was, my pitcher's gone. I might as well go in there and sit and have a beverage with him.
You're a good teammate. The 3-2 hit on a bounce at Kelly Johnson. And the Cubs strand a runner in scoring position after the leadoff hit by DeRosa. He's left at second base, still 1-0.
This is the place. Let's go. Open 24 hours. Common sense never sleeps. 2 for $1 hot dogs with all the fixings. Now, that's how you help people live the high life. Hey, how you doing, bud? There you go. This place is a mountain of goodness in a mixed up world. Thank you very much. Now, come over here. I got something to show you. We got a surprise for you. Switch it on, boys. Certified purveyors of the high life. That's you, buddy.
Certified purveyors of the Miller High Life.
Yeah, proof the world hasn't gone completely crazy.
The most realistic baseball sim ever. MLB 07 The Show, only on PlayStation. Rated E for everyone.
All new mowers look good, but Saturday morning is no time to find out your new mower won't start. You have things to do. A lawnmower is only as good as the engine that powers it.
Hey, mister.
If you don't have a Briggs & Stratton, you don't know what you have. Briggs & Stratton, the power within.
Let's get into today's Aflac trivia question. Of the last 4 Cubs teams to make the postseason, were any of them below 500 on June 1st? That's 84, 89, 1998, and 2003. Get the answer coming up in the bottom of the inning. Speaking of ejections, great to see Pete Vanaken from Peoria, and I got the update on Ryan Sandberg. He's been ejected 3 times already and has been suspended once as the Peoria Chiefs manager.
Attaboy, Rhino. Let him have it.
So he's learning the ropes as a professional manager. Always good to see Pete.
I wonder how much of that is Rhino deserving to be thrown out of the ball game, and how much of it is minor league umpire looking to put a notch in his belt. call home to his parents and say, hey, you'll never guess who I threw out of the ball game tonight, a Hall of Famer.
The Chiefs scored the winning run in the 9th yesterday to beat Cedar Rapids. And they go into the game tonight at Cedar Rapids, a game under 500, in 5th place in the Western Division of the Midwest League. This will be a big out to get here for Zambrano. 2-2 on Francoeur. He's allowed the leadoff man to reach all 3 innings, although in the first inning he got a pop-up that was mishandled by Ryan Terrio. He lost it in the sun, and Kelly Johnson was credited with a single. Another pop-up, and Derek Lee will make the catch. Good start for Zambrano here in the 4th. We mentioned as part of the umpiring crew today, the crew chief is working at first base, Bruce Fremming, so he'll call balls and strikes tomorrow. Well, this year, Bruce setting a record, the longest period of consecutive years of service for an active umpire in baseball history, his 37th year. So he's now worked over 5,000 games. Bill Clem, 5,368. Bruce went into this year with 5,029.
Yeah, Bruce is another one. He's a piece of work. I've been involved in ball games where the bench is cleared and the players are all milling around, that big polka dance you see from time to time, and Bruce had weighed his way right into the middle of it. Go sit down, bunch of tough guys. You don't want to fight. Go sit down. Guys just kind of look at each other and say, well, he's right. We don't really want to fight, so maybe we ought to just go sit down and keep playing the ball.
Now, our good friend Milt Pappas may be trying to call the booth right now to chime in, although I forgot my cell phone at home. A little discombobulated heading to work today. Get home and be 15 messages from Milt. Let me tell you about Bruce Fremming. The last Cubs no-hitter was also close to perfection. Zambrano ahead of Thorman, who doubled his first time.
I called Bruce a gremlin one day at Candlestick Park, and he said, if I knew what that was, I'd throw you out of the game.
Thorman off the end of the bat, left center field, caught by the center fielder Jones. So you called him a gremlin and he didn't kick you out?
No, you know, that whatever year that movie came out, you know, those lovable little furry creatures that could snap and go the other direction in a hurry, and I kind of thought it reminded me of Bruce a little bit. Fortunately, Bruce hadn't seen the movie Gremlins, so I did not get ejected.
Well, I give him credit because even if they don't understand what the name is, if you call an umpire something, you probably assume it's not a good thing. DeRosa can't get it, might not have mattered. He was already into the grass and right, and Pete Orr is on. That'll give Kyle Davies a chance.
Once again, the ball hits that grass in the outfield and stayed down. Had that ball continued to bounce, even the low bounces that it was taking that time, DeRosa may have had a chance to get to it, but when that ball hit the outfield grass and stayed down, it scooted underneath the glove into right field for a hit.
That is over. Ramirez chopped right at the plate by Davies. That kind of had slug bunt action as Davies bounded it over the third baseman.
Not sure why Ramirez is playing as shallow as he was in that situation with 2 outs. You see Michael on the outside corner. The pitch strays way off the inside corner, and a high chopper hit to the third base side. You can see Ramirez was playing in front of the base. And And we know Carlos is a good athlete. He fields his position extremely well. If Davies tries to bunt for a base hit right there, sometimes you just have to concede it to your pitcher. But Ramirez playing in at third base, protecting against the bunt, and that chopper got over his head that time.
So the only hitter now in their lineup without a base hit is Jeff Francoeur, first and third.
Once again, I didn't see the advanced charts on Kyle Davies as a hitter. Most advanced scouts make their notes very brief on the opposing pitcher as a hitter unless he's really good. Maybe Davies has been bunting for base hit recently. You would have to think so if the Cubs feel that Ramirez needs to play in even with the baseline with him at the plate.
Three hits in the first, one in the second, two in the third, two more here in the fourth. They have 8 on the day. Popped up by Johnson. Terrio calling, but Merton's going to make the catch. Oh, he dropped it. Terrio was calling for it. The right fielder really has the right of way on that play, and off the glove, and it costs them a run. It's an error on Merton. And it's now 2-0.
Now you can see from the shadows that ball is right up in the sun, but Merton called off the second baseman DeRosa. He's got to make that catch.
Larry with a quick word for Zambrano. An error on Merton after back-to-back singles from the 8 and 9 hitters with 2 outs. Well, if this ballpark were a big balloon, somebody just stuck a pin in it because he just felt the collective sigh of deflation. And it's only 2-0.
And that's the good news. I mean, as many hits as Zambrano's given up in this ball game and as many misplays as we've seen defensively already, it's still a very manageable ball game at this point.
Outside, 2-1. The plate too close to the hitter. 3-1. Now you worry about Zambrano losing concentration here. When there were some outside reports talking about his arm angle, some wondered if he isn't physically right. He has said, no, I'm fine. And his manager and pitching coach has said it's focus and concentration. But he gets the out as he gets Harris to hit a ground ball to short. The error allowing an unearned run to score. It's now 2-0.